So I notoriously don't have an agenda.
Okay, love it.
You know, one of the blessings of being a car guy is that you learn to just start talking to strangers randomly.
Yeah.
And so you're like, hey, welcome to the lot. And then you make a friend in like 5 minutes, and somehow that's rubbed off into every aspect of my life. So Jess, welcome to the show. You're telling me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes.
And I would say probably one of the growing, emerging real estate places. It seems to be like there's an ebb and flow. Like back when we were young, there's like whoever the popular real estate thing was, and then new ones kind of emerged. People retire or move out.
Yeah, and it's not an easy industry to break into, I will tell you.
No, in fact, I believe it's one of the most.
It is one of the, I mean, 87%
real
of
estate.
Agents fail within 3 years. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I really had to consider that when I was, embarking on leaving my teaching career and deciding what do I want to do next.
So I do want to talk to you about, because I bet you got some strong opinions about teaching.
Oh yeah.
But that'll come later. Let's talk about the now. Like you mentioned, I didn't know your dad is involved in real estate for a long time, but apparently he's been involved in real estate for a long time. So tell us a little bit about that.
So the story on that is my grandfather came out here from Ventura area back in the 80s, and he was one of the first people. He actually ran the movie house on Hancock. And he was one of the first.
30 people left in town that know that.
Yeah, I know. And so that's funny. And it's Praise Chapel now.
Yes.
But he picked up a ton of rentals. He was a real estate broker out in California. He came over here, started doing real estate. And so that was really his gig. And then my dad is an attorney in town, Ken Sonogroth, for a long time. And he just was like, hey, I know the commissioner. Do you want to take your test and become a broker? And this was back in, the day, 20-something years ago. So my dad just takes
the day? You mean like my prime? Is that what you're talking about?
My dad takes the test, becomes a broker, and that was over 20 years ago. And he used it sporadically over the years. My mom was licensed as well for many years. But it's it's sort of a family thing with us, but it was never really primary. It was always secondary to the attorney business. The thing is, when you're an attorney, people come to you with all sorts of situations. It's good to know, as much as you can, as well as, being an opportunist, right? You have, if you can list something that falls into your lap, why not, if you have the credentials? So we sort of, as his career went on, because when he was doing family law in the beginning, then he moved to a lot of DUI and criminal law. And then now winding down, coming towards retirement, he's doing a lot of probate law. And he started to realize, the connection that he could use between the probate and the real estate. And this all started to ramp up back in 2016. I was teaching still, obviously, but with a 4-day-a-week career, I had time in the evenings, time on the weekends. He said, take your summer, get licensed. You can do a bunch of the paperwork for me, because I'm getting, starting to figure out how to drive people into this real estate space from the probate. So I was like, sure, I'm not doing anything this summer. I'll get licensed. And that was in 2016. So I get licensed, and, I did a lot of TC work for him, which is transaction coordinating. I would do the back end and learn the forms and everything, and then just kind of kept my teaching career. I mean, that's what I always wanted to be. 13 years I was in full-time teaching, mostly fourth grade. And I just ended up, we started getting busier. He started dialing it in more, and then, organically, 2023 hits, and the end of that school year, and I was
Couldn't
ready
make
for a
sense
change
anymore, huh?
Yeah, that too. He was getting busier. I wasn't as happy in teaching, and it just kind of perfect stormed into me. It's hard to leave a government paycheck, I'll tell you. Going commission only, I was scared.
You're talking to car guys. That's all we do.
I know. I was like, how am I going? But, it was a little easier, because being a teacher, I was like, if I sell one house a month, I'll be fine. I'll be making what I'm making. So really just taking that leap at that point. The problem with me is I can't do anything low key. So
I wanted to ask you, it seems like you guys have grown at least a lot visually. You seem to have been out more. We had some ladies stop by the used car center the other day with some banana bread.
Yes.
And I'll tell you the full story on that. Is I'm sitting over there, doing my thing, and I hear them talking. And Miles was like, oh, cool, you brought some food, da-da-da-da. And I literally, 5 minutes earlier, was like, dude, I am so hungry and I don't have time. And so I don't normally poke my head out, and I was like, I wonder what they got. And so I poked my head out and they had banana bread in there. So I was like, all right, thank you. Give me that banana bread. And so I
actually have a degree in advertising from NAU. That's what I went to school for originally. And then decided I didn't want to work I didn't want to work in that field, and my internship was not great. So pivoted to education, which was also something I wanted to do, but anyways, so it goes. But so I do have a bit of a background as far as how to, launch something maybe a little faster than some other people, social media expertise and kind of getting into that. And, I've hired up someone to go and do the marketing in the community.
So I want to ask you, and I ask every real estate person I talk to, what's with the photo shoots? Every real estate in the world's like this. Like, did you get your dad to do that?
I did, and he did not think it was important at all. He's like, I've been doing real estate.
Why is it this pose, though? Why is it always this pose?
Oh, my mom hated that picture when it came out. She was like, he looks like a genie. We need to get rid of that as soon as possible, and we did. So
that's so funny.
It's just, learning and growing, developing. I'm in that little bit of a transition where I've got my feet wet into the industry, and you start to realize, like, hey, I don't have to do everything like everyone else. And that's honestly what keeps me up at night, is like how to be different. Yeah. So, now that I'm getting a footing, I'm starting to think about how to be a little bit different from the typical cookie cutter industry standard.
Banana bread was a nice touch. So
yeah, no, I love community. That's a huge.
Good, we love banana bread.
Core, yeah, and I told them they want Red Bull, but they just stuck with the plan. But we'll have to make that happen. But I found that out when we bought our truck.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I would say that
I asked them, and they said energy drinks.
Yeah, the perks of things that people, used to be like, "Hey, bake me some cookies." Now it's like,
"Sure,
can I get a white Monster?"
Yeah.
Like, okay,
exactly.
So,
but
it's definitely evolved some.
Yes.
Yep.
They just kind of went rogue and went places, and I was like, I should have told them about the Red Bulls. But
yeah, it's better to be ambitious and go for it. Like, I think we all know, especially I'm sure you're seeing, like, taking some action is a way more important than waiting for the perfect.
And just doing things, going extra mile. Like, no one else is really doing that, going out there to businesses face to face. I mean, how easy is that?
So it's something that, I've been doing this a little while, was very common 20 years ago.
Sure.
A little less common 10 years ago, and it's almost all but gone. Even most of our vendors that we spend lots of money with in the industry, they come around once a year, maybe twice a year, and they hand a couple pens. Right. You're basically a stranger, and then they leave.
Yeah.
And you're like,
man, we're having
you're better off doing nothing at that point. Yeah. Like, I'd rather you didn't come by and half-ass it and hand me 3 pens.
No, that was one of my first initiatives when I was working out of my dad's back room at the law firm myself, and just getting way too much business to handle alone. And I was like feeling lonely too, because I come from an environment where I had a team, and now all of a sudden it's just me all day, every day. I didn't have anyone to cover me, bounce ideas off of. It just wasn't natural for me. And so I sort of pitched my dad. I'm like, what if I bring someone else on to help me with some of my overflow and cover me? And, and he was like, sure. And then I pulled in Brittany Bancroft actually first. And she was willing to take the leap with me and move over from her brokerage. And, it was just me and her in the back of the law firm. And it kept getting busier. And it's kind of like, we're not going to be able to, this isn't sustainable. Right. I had hired a full-time assistant at that point. Now there's 3 of us. So we found this space next to Mojave Steakhouse, which is, it was a vape shop. And for about 5 months, we had people walking in expecting it to be a vape shop. It is not.
Did you sell any of them houses?
No.
I want a cherry limeade vape. How about a house?
Yeah. No, that didn't go over well. They were very, very confused. But we ended up, moving into that space, making it our own, which it works out great for us. And, we go over for lunch a lot at Mojave Steakhouse. So that's
not
great.
A bad lunch.
Not a bad lunch. So, and take clients over, Yeah. No, it's a great highway location. So I'm like, okay. So then I bring on, I actually didn't do any hiring, like putting it out there. Like, I am not, this was in July last year that we even opened the doors. And by December, 7 agents under me.
That happened fast.
Just in 6 months, just from people coming to me saying, hey, I love what you're doing. I like you. Can we work together? How do we make this happen? So no recruiting on my part. I'm still kind of in that space where I'm not opposed to anyone joining my brokerage if they're a good fit, but I'm not actively recruiting.
Right.
So the growth is happening organically, which also is a good sign, to me. People want to be part of my vision, which again is very community focused. Like we try to go to Kiwanis, we try to go to local events, the ribbon cut. We try to be involved and support local youth too.
You've been like organically engaged in those things
my whole
previous.
Life.
So, you didn't change, your industry changed,
Yeah.
And your dad's been involved in some of that stuff forever.
Just kind of translated
just
that
out there
in.
running amok on people.
Yeah.
Barking orders.
Yeah. And, it's been great. People like that we're community focused. Like, we will just support kids' teams. I love supporting local youth. Like, I'd rather spend, we're doing a prom giveaway right now, by the way. So if you have an upperclassman at any of the high schools, we're giving away the 2 tickets, dinner at Mojave Steakhouse, and a flower package from Bullhead City Florist. So we're doing like a partnership there to give away some prom packages. I'd rather spend $1,300 on that than buy one table at an event, for example.
Yeah.
So helping kids and families. We sponsor a local girl at the racetrack, things like that.
We just had the chamber here, so I don't want them to think I'm talking about it when they leave. But going to all the same things with all the same people gets a little redundant.
Yeah.
And it loses its value after a while.
Yeah.
The events are great because of the benefit, not necessarily the networking all the time. Like, you go to the thing, you buy the table because it helps whatever the end cause is. But like, there's so many events and so many organizations doing it that you basically end up seeing the same people. Yeah, so 50 times a year.
Some of them. Like we went to White Night, but I passed on, Taste of Bullhead? Yeah. Just because I was like, I'm going to take this $1,000 in my budget and I'm going to just directly give it to, local kids to help them out.
We actually did very similar in that we went heavier into our Aces, Traces, Athlete of the Week programs.
Yeah.
We spend a little bit more on like smaller, getting back to kind of like grassroots type things versus the big events. Like it hit me real hard a couple times because, and I don't think this is like a secret, so hopefully it doesn't shock anybody. But we used to have Christy go spend hundreds of dollars on these baskets for these events.
Yeah.
And then they auction them off for $30, and you're like, wait a second, like,
well,
I'd rather just give you $100 and waste money.
That's true.
But there's a little bit of just general diminished returns. And it's not that we don't see the value in the end thing, but we also have to be, responsible to our employees, our business, and everything else. And so it gets a little hard to be everywhere all the time.
It does, especially in this town. There's so much going on all the time.
Especially this time of year.
If you did it all, you'd never work. So that's part of my problem is like I want to be out there at everything, like say Triple Farms on Saturday. Like I'd love to have a table there and talk to people, and I'm like, I'm showing houses all day Saturday. It's really hard to make time because there are so many events here, which is great for the community. And it does give more opportunity for, all the businesses that are doing the same thing.
But I will tell you, there's also, it's not that it's not always valuable, but when you are emerging and trying to grow a network, it's a little bit more important to get out there and meet and greet people. Whereas, we spent half a decade investing in those things and being a part of everything. And
that's what my dad says. I kind of bank on his name a little bit because he did that for so long here. And that's the name of our brokerage, Palm Growth Real Estate Group.
So when I met your dad, I just met him through the community stuff.
Sure.
I'd seen him around. I had no idea he was an attorney or whatever the hell,
Yeah, you wouldn't know, honestly.
No. I thought somebody should sue this guy. He's saying some real off-the-cuff stuff here.
No filter.
Anyway, and I really just knew him as being very heavily involved in Kiwanis, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's what I knew him on. And then met him in other things, seen him out there, and then saw that he had gotten into real estate, which apparently he already was. I just didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he wasn't marketing himself well.
Right.
But anyway, so that's the first thing I think of when I see him is Kiwanis community.
Yeah.
He's out there in the super cool shirts, volunteering and doing whatever.
In the cook trailer. He'll be there at Triple Farms on Saturday.
So
he does all that still. He's real passionate about it. And it's just kind of like seeped into who I am growing up.
Why did he get so involved in those things? Like, I'm sure, when you were young, coming up, he was involved in all that stuff. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. What was
building a law firm? The town was a lot smaller. You had to do things. They were really, honestly, the new Kiwanis has been the proponent of a lot of events that are still ongoing. But here, like, they had the first egg hunt and they ran it for how many years, and then finally just said, forget it, there's like 50, you know? Yeah. But they, you know, for a long time.
I feel that way about trunk or treats.
Yeah, they were yes.
So they had this massive trunk or treat.
Yep.
And then it was like.
Yeah. Everyone catches on.
Well, yes, somebody else like, I'm going to do a trunk or treat, and I'm going to do a trunk or treat, and I'm going to do a trunk or treat. And then there's 50 trunk or treats.
Yeah, and they forget, and then they're like, forget it. You know
and then
what?
I'll tell you what happens. Yeah. They all come to us, and everybody wants us to sponsor all of them. Sure. We can't do all of them.
No.
And you know what's actually, it's not the sponsorship that's expensive.
What?
You know what's expensive.
The time.
The candy.
The candy.
That candy is so expensive now.
It is.
So you buy a $20, like 80, 60 piece of candy. It got so expensive. I think the one year we spent like $2,000 in candy. And I remember running back into Target to just buy more because we were running out.
Yeah.
And we weren't like crazy. We weren't throwing it. But it was like a couple here, a couple here, a couple here.
Yeah.
And I mean, we spent a couple $1,000s in candy.
Absolutely.
And I think I got cut off from trunk or treats after that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I got cut off from trunk or treats right after that.
Yeah, just when you're growing a business, you know, it's important to be out there. And I think he understood that from the get-go. And plus, he really just honestly like loves it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it hasn't been difficult for him to volunteer. It's just kind of who he is, so.
Yeah. Well, and I think because of the timing when he got here, he recognized need, he provided what was needed, and now he's got roots in it.
Exactly.
And it's really hard to just be done with it. Like, I feel that way about youth sports. Like, my son's getting older. I'm not coaching anymore. But it's like every time I walk by, I'm like, I can probably help a little bit, you know, but
sure,
it's hard to just like have a clean break from it all.
I think that's why he likes transferring a little bit of it to me now. You know, he's kind of like, well, this is all for you now. You know, you take what you've learned and kind of run with it, which, you know, has been fun. It's been a challenge. My brain likes challenges. I had gotten to the point with teaching where it was not easy, but I had felt like I had mastered it in a sense. I knew what I was doing every day. Every day was the same. And especially when you teach the same grade every year, you know, it's like Groundhog Year, right? You're doing the same thing, new kids. And it's just got boring for me. My brain likes to be challenged. So real estate is great for me because it is all challenges. It is all day long, your phone ringing with fires. You're just putting out fires, and my brain just likes to work. So put it to work.
So car sales is very much the same way.
Yeah.
And people ask, I always think about it like this. Like, my grandfather worked on an assembly line. I could not imagine doing the same thing 100 times a day, all day, for years and years and years and years.
Not at all.
And other people can't wrap their head around like the chaos of every single person being different, every single situation being different. The, you know, essentially being commission is stressful, but once you kind of learn to live with it. But I like that everyone's a different puzzle. You've got to figure out the different pieces that make it all make sense, because despite what people think, if the customer's not happy, they don't buy from you. You can't just tell them, hey, pay this. You've got to make it fit their situation, their scenario, their finances, their personality, their preferences. And I'd imagine houses are like that on steroids.
Exactly the same. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's great. I'm loving it.
Yeah. So aside from being bored and teaching, was it hard to walk away from teaching?
I mean, the kids are the best part, obviously. I always felt like I had, like, you know, fourth grade is what I love because they're old enough to, you can talk to them, but they're not, you know, hormonal
it's a
yet.
Sweet spot where they're not.
The sweet spot, you know, you're not wiping noses, but you can actually, you know, talk to them. They're not crazy yet. It's perfect. So that was my sweet spot. I felt like I had like 25 little best friends, you know, like they're so funny and they're so, but you know, it's everything else that seeps in that makes it unenjoyable. You know, bureaucracy really. Administration. And
who would have thought? Bureaucracy and administration.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't do well in those situations. My personality, because I will always speak up when I see something not right or something that needs change. And I hate to say it, most education environments don't like that.
Yeah.
They want people to just sit down, shut up, do your job. That's how it feels. And if you care too much, it's like, I don't know, you get into a bad space. And that's where I found myself, because it was like, honestly, do I start my own school or do I go into real estate full time? Because I really teetered on that. I have I had a lot of nights where I thought about just doing like some sort of individualized education.
Some people started their own schools.
They sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually it was really great timing because I didn't know what to do with my own kids. I have a 5 and 8 year old, and that was a couple years ago. One was going to be starting kindergarten. Thank God Harvest opened up. My kids go to Harvest now, and it was just perfect timing for my life. I was like, it took it off my heart. I had to be like, okay, I have a great place I can put my kids. I can focus on this, So, I don't know.
I try to be very respectful and just mind my business. And people asking me about where their kids should go to school.
Sure.
And a lot of times they ask me because of sports.
Sure.
And it's a tough conversation to have with a lot of people. And the reality is I kind of just leave it at this: is that you got to find the right situation for you.
Exactly.
And
just because one school doesn't work for someone doesn't mean it's going to not be a great fit for another family. So, you need to try them for a year. Don't be afraid to, check them out thoroughly before you make a decision. I told
my son, you need to figure out how to be successful wherever you are.
Yeah, that's it.
Like if you're in, a bad situation, you got to figure out how to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like he did. He's, on schedule to graduate, good grades. He's going to go to college.
I saw that.
So I either got lucky or he took some of my advice. I'm not sure.
There's definitely luck into it too. My kids' personalities, I'm like, but you never know.
Yeah, there's I listen to a lot of these successful people, and the ones that do recognize that luck was a factor, whether it just be timing, meeting the right person, and but to act like,
Honestly, real estate is a lot of luck too. Like I'll tell my sellers, like, we are literally relying on the right person at the right time to love your house and be able to afford it, and be the right timing in their life. Like there is always a little bit of luck to things that are great. And
no, I don't know what luck is, but I hope it's on my side.
Oh yeah,
I seem to have been lucky a few times in life, and I'll take it. So
yeah.
So what is happening in the real estate world? Is it? So I feel like I see, like typical social media dummy. It's the end of the world. No one's ever going to buy anything ever again. Also, we're super busy selling a bunch of houses.
Yeah, I don't know where all the doomsday talk comes from. I've closed 31 properties personally this year so far, and my phone is still ringing. So a lot of what's selling is the new construction, the lower end type of, because of the interest rates, the more affordable properties are moving. Pretty much anything between 200 and 300 is, has the lowest days on market right now, as long as have it in decent condition. 200 to 300 is flying. 300 to 400 is doing okay, maybe 60 to 80 days on market. The hardest range, I think, is the 400s and 500s. That payment just gets to be a little bit much for our population. And then it's weird because you jump to like the really expensive properties that move sort of fast. And you're like, but they're usually very unique. So it's like, I don't know. I try to focus on volume. I will. A lot of the lower stuffs. Yeah. I mean, I just do whatever people's got,
so, the car version business of that, or version of that in the car business is we have inexpensive, we call them first time buyer cars or budget cars or whatever. And they fly out of here.
Yep.
And then really high end new cars fly out of here.
Okay. Yeah.
And the middle of the road stuff's kind of.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means. I'm sure they're very comparable in terms of who's doing what in the marketplace.
It makes it a buyer's market. It makes it to where the buyer can really be kind of choosy on what they want to spend their money on.
Yeah.
And sellers really have to step up right now. Your property has to be clean, repaired. If I'm going out and I'm showing 9 houses in a day, those people are really seeing the difference between the cleanliness of the homes and deferred maintenance is huge. When you start to see little things that are off, kind of makes you start thinking about big things. AC units is a huge selling factor out here. If your AC unit is more than 5 years old, good luck. They're going to pick a different house because they want something new. And that's where they can't compete with all the new construction.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing.
Well, and that's where I think the market naturally corrects itself, and then that opens things up. And I think people have held on in general to a lot of things. And then, reality sets in and you see my neighbor's house sell, that house sell, like,
Yeah, everything sells at the right price, they say. Yeah. So,
Hey, that's literally our theory in the car business. So we actually have a program that tells us, here is the buying point. This is where these are transacting.
Yep.
And we go and we mark our used cars at that price. New cars are a little different, similar but a little different.
Yeah.
So like when people are like, your prices are crazy, you're like, actually, they're kind of spot on.
Yeah.
So it kind of kills
and the best people for that are your Facebook people, right?
Yes.
With are you kidding? This is like, you're out of your mind. And I'm like, I can show you 3 comps right now of things that sold very similar last week. So
it's always the same person who has a shit box car listed for 10 times what it's worth on Marketplace. Yeah. They're like, your prices are crazy. Yeah. Meanwhile, I've got a barely running car for 10 grand on Marketplace. You're like, come on, guy. Like, your negotiation's a little unrealistic here. So
No, we're doing I think the market is solid right now. It's just steady. I'm excited. I've got a really high price listing coming up. So if anyone out there is a 2 million price point buyer.
It's a little off for me. I was right about there.
It's going to be a good one. It's coming up in a couple weeks. So you'll see me launch that one.
So this will come out in about a week and a half.
Perfect.
So if you get a couple pictures, send them to me. We'll pop it in that little clip there for you.
Yeah, that's going to be an awesome one because it's very unique and iconic for the town, I will say.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
We have such a unique, diverse. You have literal multi-million-dollar river houses.
Yeah.
You have friggin' mansions in Laughlin Ranch.
Yeah.
And then in between, you got everything in between.
Oh, yeah.
Like, do you go from showing
Yes.
You're like...
A literal hoarder house single wide in the morning to, I just closed on exactly like a riverfront, right in the afternoon. So it's definitely a unique market.
Yeah.
And, I think being from here is a huge advantage in the real estate market because honestly, that's a huge strength of my brokerage. Almost every single person, 6 out of 7 agents graduated locally.
Oh, wow.
In my brokerage from either Kingman, Mojave, or River Valley. So, I mean, not a lot of brokerages can say that. A lot of our transplants, people from other places, there's nothing like growing up here to know the area, to be able to help your clients, and have all the connections you need.
I feel like we just talked about this
to get stuff done.
Knowing the area is so much more than just knowing your way around.
Yes.
This is a very unique community.
It is. Yeah, and honestly, I've seen more and more agents from outside our area working our area, and it's a little frustrating because my dad, again, with that old school mentality, he's always told me like, hey, you don't work outside your knowledge base, but you're seeing it now where I'm like, well, Dad, it's a different world right now because everyone is selling all of Mojave County. So to compete and stay competitive, no, I have to break into Golden Valley, Kingman, and Havasu a bit. I have to learn. So it's a learning curve for me, but it's not the same.
Has the internet made real estate a small world like the car business has? Like, you're one click away from finding a car 200 miles away.
Yeah,
is it
for sure.
Kind of the same thing?
Yeah, people think they know here's the thing. People think they know where they want to be when they're out of state researching here. And then I'll waste an entire day showing them things. And they're like, maybe we need to up the price point. Or maybe I need to think of Kingman. Or maybe I need this is a really, it's not a cookie cutter place. You have to come experience it. You have to take a trip out here, spend a day with someone like me, who knows the area, and showing where do you want to be? Because there's, like you said, there's neighborhoods that are just 10 minutes away that are so different. Yep. And you got to know those nuances.
So I take my boat south usually from Needles, and I went north maybe sometime last year, and you go up past the bridge, and there are some of the most beautiful houses I've ever seen. I don't know who the hell those people are. I keep waiting to see Arnold Schwarzenegger hanging out on a dock or something. But it's and then you go just a little further, and there's basically a box on the river. Yeah. So I don't know. It is unique to understand, for sure.
It is so unique. And, that's a huge strength I feel like we bring to the table, which is, just knowing the area really well and just being well connected.
Yep.
Because a lot of the people we grew up with now are in other industries here. So like, I'm like, oh, you need an HVAC? I'll call this guy from high school. He'll answer my call right now and then get over. I was literally just doing a final walkthrough on Wednesday night. As we're leaving, the customer goes over and messes with the valve on the water main. There was a pressure relief valve. Opens it and it breaks. As it's breaking, the water's spewing out. The seller pulls up and she's like, what'd you do to my house? And I'm standing there like, oh my gosh. Luckily, I know the neighbor who's a general contractor and his wife taught my kids in preschool. I have his number because he's done jobs for me. I just call him up. He walks over, 8 o'clock at night, happens to have the part because he has an acre with shops, and he just boop, 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 changes it right there, says, just give me a beer, get me back another time, walks home.
It's pretty hard to beat that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good deal.
People that aren't from here can't do things like that. You know what I mean? You got to have, the connections are just invaluable. So, yeah.
We always say that, the relationships are kind of the difference maker and everything.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I'm learning that so much. Like, I can get things done that other people can't get done just because, when you give someone a lot of business, they're going to go an extra mile for you.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
As a real estate agent, I have a lot of business to give out. So referrals and relationships are everything.
So I don't want to keep you here all day. You don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
What's the future of your group look like?
I would love to end the year with like 12 committed agents. I'm at 8, including me. I definitely will need a bigger space at some point. We're looking into options for that. But I'm a little stuck because I don't want to do just a boring old office like everyone else. Again, my brain always goes back to how to be different. So I've got some things in the works as far as how to be.
You don't want to give up that Mojave Steakhouse lunch.
That too.
I wouldn't want to do that either.
I know, it's so easy. But yeah, it's just, I'm thinking of expansion all the time. I think it's going to happen. I'd love to just keep growing organically. If I've done this much in 6 months, I feel like the sky's the limit. So
what holds you back? What's the thing when you play this thing out 5 steps ahead? What holds you back?
I don't know. Nothing really.
Then I look forward to seeing this result in the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, finding people that want to work. I don't know how to.
That's crazy.
In every industry, I know it just translates, but it's true. I know no one wants to work like I do. But 50% of that even would be awesome. I work constantly, so.
So you mentioned the fail rate of real estate was 87%, something or other.
It's crazy.
So the car industry has a massive turnover and the people you see that are still on our team are the ones who survived.
Yeah.
And I don't mean survived in like it's cutthroat or bad or any way, but we have a culture too, and we have an expectation of hey, we're gonna pay you well, but you got to work hard. And we have a great group of people who fit that culture, and
awesome.
It was not easy to find. I mean, it's been cooking over, and the fact that we have so much management that's stuck around for as long as they have kind of helps continuate that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every 6 months. We got this is who we are, this is what we do. It's not for everybody, that's okay.
I think that's huge.
We got a really good team right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Same. I love my current team. I'm very much an open door type place. Like, exactly. Like, this is what I have to offer. If it fits for you, awesome. If not, that's fine.
Yeah.
See ya. I don't, I want it to work for everyone else. My main goal is for people to come to work and be happy.
Right.
That's it. Like, that's me. Like, I was honestly pretty miserable the last couple of years I was teaching. I was the meme of like Monday morning, like I hated it. And I wake up excited and happy and I'm ready to work every day. So that to me is like everything. And just, controlling my schedule. Being a teacher, you're like a slave, to your schedule. You're trapped in a box all day.
It's extremely structured.
Oh, yeah. Every minute, literally, is accounted for. Whereas now I'm like, you know what? If I don't have an appointment for the next 2 hours, I can just go do whatever I want, literally. And I've never had that before. So it's that to me,
that's where the discipline kicks in.
Freedom is, everything.
I think the lack of structure or actually sabotages a lot of real estate people.
Yeah, because what I'll do is
I'll go
home and work.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my computer.
I'll go sit on the boat and I'll pull my laptop out and take a picture.
Oh yeah, I drive everyone crazy that knows me because I'm always working, but I love it. And I think that's what sets me apart. You know what? I mean, who else is closing? Honestly, like I'm the number one solo right now in town because I answer my phone and I work all the time. So that's all. I'm like, that's it? That's all I have to do?
Do people buying houses still want to talk, or are they texters?
Both. But the older they are, the more they want to talk on the phone, which is fine. I'll do either. But what I like about texting is I have like a record of what I said.
Yeah, I like that too.
To look back at, just from my own memory, because I have so much going on. I'm like, I just like to see it. Sometimes I'll even type it out and then call, just because I want to be able to look back for myself. It's like note taking. But
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But no, there's a lot of both still. You have to be comfortable on the phone.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to get into real estate, but they're not comfortable talking to people or being on the phone. And it's like, that's the job, Connecting with consumers, that is the job. So
what do people think the job is a lot of the time?
I don't know. Post on social media and people are going to call me to buy a house. No, like maybe sometimes you get lucky like that, or your sphere of influence. But
we talked about some of the data, some of the other stuff. I'm a marketing guy. Like my gig in this dealership, aside from like sales support management, is marketing.
Yeah.
And so I'm nosy. I watch other people's marketing.
Oh,
and then I look and I'm like, you posted 8 times. Not a soul looked at it. Nobody interacted with it. Like, post away, I guess, You know what though?
I've had the coolest experience, I have to tell you. I got a voicemail the other day and the guy was like, listen, I don't do social media, but this girl I know does social media. And I told her I wanted to sell my dad's house. And she said, you have to call Jessica Topol. I am obsessed with her. I watch her online. I look at all her stuff. She's the one you need to call. And he was like, that's real. And he's like, I don't do any of that stuff. But she told me she follows you. Yeah. And I'm like, and I don't know. So mystery person, if you're out there, I still don't know who you are. But apparently people that you don't even know I'm like, wow, someone I don't even know is watching me and recommending me. And that is cool.
We had some of that with Christy. People would be in the dealership and be like, is Christy here?
Yeah.
And you have to go track her down, or no, she's not here, she's doing whatever. And it's actually like, everybody wants trackable data, but you can't beat that real world example.
No.
Where someone knows someone they've never met.
Yeah, it's great. Like Christy did a show at my office, and I got one of my agents out of it. She watched it and she called me and said, hey, I loved your interview with Christy. I want to come work with you. So
very cool.
Like little things like that. It's like things you don't expect, and they just absolutely make my day. I'm like, that is so cool.
So I've started coining most of our marketing as, which I don't think is new, but I think it's maybe like bringing it back, is it's investment. You investing some time and coming and sitting and talking with me, hopefully pays you dividends down the road some way, somehow.
Yeah.
But you don't always know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And not all are good. Some have lesser returns, some have more.
Sure.
But if you don't ever invest, you definitely won't ever get any of it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I look at a lot of the stuff we do, is it's really an investment. Just like the same way I consider training. Like, I am investing this hour with you training these skills or this product.
Yeah.
Because I hope it pays off.
At some point. You're going to need it. Yeah.
But if I never do, I never will. And so some of them, like, we'll invest months into people, and they'll quit when they get on the floor. You're like, you went through all that just to quit? Like, at least give it a shot,
Sure.
But you got to make that investment.
Yeah, even like when I started doing home tours for my office, we'll take a whole afternoon and we'll go look at a bunch of homes that are on the market. And at first I was kind of like, is this a good use of my time? I'm not sure. Lo and behold, the next week I pull up these buyers want to be in the exact area we just did our home tours. They have four homes on their list that I've already previewed.
Yeah.
So when I get to them, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm so much more prepared to show these homes because I've been in them. I know what's going to work for them or not. And I was like, okay, it's paying off. Exactly. I didn't know when it was going to pay off, but it paid off. So investing in yourself and your career is huge.
I think when you phrase it that way, it hits people differently too. So I don't know if you have a lot of active participation from your team in marketing or ideas, but a lot of the times guys are like, it's not fair. So-and-so gets all these customers. You're like, they took the time, made the
Well,
video.
I always tell my
did the
my
product.
girls, I'm like, it's your business too. They're all independent contractors with us. You know, I'm like, I'm here to provide a place, a structure, a culture, but it's still, at the end of the day, you are your business. You don't have to follow my lead on everything. Right. You know, go out there and market yourself however you want to market. Like I have a couple, like Jasmine Urias, she's really hitting it hard on she's a Spanish speaker. So really, and she works part-time at Ace. So she's connecting with a lot of customers through that her niche, you know?
Yeah.
So people really need to also embrace their individuality. Even though you work somewhere, you're still you. And how can you play off that? So
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
huge.
Couldn't agree more. I expect 12 brokers
I know.
by the end of the year.
Call me. No.
No pressure.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I'm going to follow up 3 months. Want to see your progress?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah, obviously, again, I'm not actively hiring, but if this does resonate with anyone out there who's at a brokerage and not happy, you know, I'm always willing to sit down and have the conversation. So, cool.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You know, we worked on some community stuff like a decade ago. Not that we're that old or anything. But
we're getting old.
I know.
So
we're like the sweet spot generation, though. Like technology and also despising technology a little bit. Like we're kind of in the sweet spot there.
Yeah.
So
my dad actually wants to start a podcast, believe it or not. So we might have to talk because he has some really great stories from his life of being in law.
I can only imagine.
Yes.
Yep.
So it's the
I know
podcast
a guy
is the way of the future.
Who does some great podcast production. I'll get you in touch.
Okay, awesome.
He's the man.
I love podcasts.
He's bringing podcasting to the community.
Yes,
so.
I love it. I love it. So that's great. Thank you so much.
Very cool. Appreciate it.